Caring for your pet shouldn't come with a sticker shock. Whether it's food, visits with a vet, or a new set of playthings, raising a happy and healthy pet isn't cheap. But fear not, today we have some budget friendly tips to help keep your pets thriving without breaking the bank, as well as answer your other pet related questions. All this on this episode of Ask the Doc, no appointment needed.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Michael J. Zinner, MD.
Send in your questions to questions@allhealthtv.com or AllHealthGo on Facebook or YouTube, or visit the Ask the Doc page on our website, allhealthtv.com.
Welcome to Ask the Doc, the show where we encourage our viewers to send in their health-related questions. I'm Dr. Joy Carter, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, and today we'll show you how to keep your pet care costs under control. All right, let's get started, guys. So our first questions come to us from Courtney, who reached out through our website, allhealthtv.com. Hi, Doc. I just rescued a cat from the street and I'm looking into getting her spayed. It's a lot more expensive at my regular vet than at animal control. Is it okay to go there, and do they do a good job? All right, Courtney, got a little bit tongue-tied there, but yes. So definitely a lot of times animal services and other humane societies, they do spays and neuters at reduced costs, okay? The reason they are able to do them at a reduced cost is because they do so many at a time. And then sometimes they also get some funding from the government. And then as far as the actual surgery, I mean, it is going to be done by an actual veterinarian. But a lot of times they don't do pre-op blood work, depending on if it's a dog or a cat. Sometimes they don't put an IV catheter in. The pet may not be on IV fluids. There's other things that they kind of skip that can cut down on their costs. Now, it does not mean that they can't do a good job. I typically tell people if they do have, a tight budget, and they do still want to get their pet spayed or neutered and they can't afford it, say at their regular veterinary office, then certainly animal services is, going to be their best option. There are some other programs. I don't know if they're still active, but there used to be a program in South Florida called the SNP program. And you had to apply, to have your pet put on that program, but they could go to other veterinary offices and they could actually get spayed or neutered there, and part of it would be paid by the county. So, I always advocate for spay and neutering, pets, because nobody wants unwanted litters. And the last thing you need to have is a bunch of puppies or kittens around when you're on a tight budget. So definitely there is nothing wrong with going to animal services. I would say the majority of animals that get spayed or neutered there do perfectly fine. I have done a lot of relief work with a lot of rescue organizations that do, affordable spays and neuters. I have worked with animal services. And they do a good job. It's just they do this, and this is what they do every day. So they're able to do quite a large amount of pets, and they're able to do it for a reduced cost. So yes, Courtney, if you just found a cat on the street and you don't feel that going to your primary veterinarian is going to be affordable for you, definitely look into Humane Society or Animal Services, see about getting your pet spayed, okay? All right, so our next question comes from Drew, who reached out to us through Facebook. Hey, Dr. Joy, what do you think about pet insurance? I've heard from some other pet parents that it costs a fortune and yet never covers any of the injuries or illnesses that their pets suffer from. All right, so I'm kind of sorry, Drew, to hear your friends have been a little bit underwhelmed with the pet insurance, but I will say I am 100% an advocate for pet insurance, okay? Just like just like human health insurance, there are different plans and they are going to vary in cost, and they are going to vary on what they cover, okay? Most of the pet insurances are going to be pretty affordable, all right? It depends on the age of your pet. It can also sometimes depend on the breed of your pet too. But I would say on average, probably maybe around $50 to $75 a month is what it tends to be for pet insurance. Most pet insurance are usually used for emergency type situations, okay? There are some pet insurances that may cover routine veterinary care, and they may have a little bit higher, I guess you could say, premium. I typically tell owners, if you want to have a pet insurance plan that includes that, great. But if it's kind of a little bit above your budget, then definitely just kind of get the basic. And it really depends on which company you use. And it depends on your plan. Some, require, a little bit of a deposit, okay? And then, or basically a deductible, like we say in humans. And then they cover, say, a certain percentage. It can vary anywhere from like, I think probably 60, 70, up to sometimes 90%. Or if you have the highest coverage, it may cover everything. And I will say this, pet care, is costing a lot more money and it's a lot more expensive. And I've been working, in the ER business for close to 15 years now. And I've seen how expensive it can get. And it makes it so much easier for myself and for other veterinarians when we have a pet parent that has taken insurance out on their pet, and we don't have to worry about having that talk with them about, what they're able to do and not do because of financial situations. Because in some of those situations, when it comes to emergency, it can be a life or death kind of decision, if they're not able to get the proper care. So don't listen to your friends, Drew. Okay, sorry. But there definitely are a lot of good companies out there. Honestly, just go to Google, type in pet health insurance. You will see a lot of different ones come up. Some that I personally know, I think Trupanion is one. I think Nationwide now has pet insurance. There's Lemonade. I can't even remember all of them, but what you need to do is go and sit down and see which one is going to be best for your pet and best for your budget too. All right. All right, we've got another Facebook question from one of our loyal viewers. This is from Esme through our Facebook page. Hola, Dr. Joy. I'm in my third year of college. I'd love to be able to have a pet right now, but my financial situation is a little tight at the moment. I've heard that fostering a pet is an option. Would love your thoughts on this. All right, Esme. Yes, 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 yes. Listen, guys, owning a pet nowadays can kind of almost be considered a little bit of a luxury because pets do require a lot of care and that can cost money. And if you're not in the financial situation at this time period to be able to take care of the pet, the last thing you need to do is get a pet. But if you want to be able to experience the benefits of owning a pet or taking care of a pet, fostering is 100% the best option. Okay. At my current job, there are quite a few rescue organizations that I work with. One of them is Saving Sage, I think Sunshine Animal Rescue. There's so many different out there. I think there's even Peggy Adams that is up north, Big Dog Ranch. And a lot of these rescue groups rely on fosters, okay? They would not be able to take care of the number of pets that they get surrendered or that they rescue if it was not for fostering. And I do know this for a fact. Most of these rescue organizations, they will take care of the medical bills. They will give you the food. They will give you the toys. They will give you the beds. All you need to do is you need to provide love and a home. And if your pet does require any type of veterinary visits or care, you transport them to the vet and the rescue takes care of the rest. And it is definitely a wonderful way and to be able to help a pet out without having that financial burden. And in some situations, if your financial situation changes and so many people foster and then they end up adopting their pets, so that's also a good thing too. Another thing that I have heard of, and I don't know if they still do it at Miami-Dade Animal Services or at any other humane societies, but they used to have a program where you can go and you can basically take a dog out for the day, like basically take them on a day date. And that is another really good option, okay? Especially if you just want to kind of experience the pet, for a few hours and not have to keep them at your house, or maybe you live in a place that doesn't allow pets or your parents won't let you have pets. You can do that. You can take them out. They will will give you supplies, all that stuff, and you can take that dog out for the day and have as much fun as you want. Also, a lot of other rescue places, they need volunteers, and they need volunteers not just to be able to take care of the pets, but some of it is to interact and play with the cats and play with the dogs. So there are plenty and plenty of opportunities. And trust me, guys, we have such a bad situation here in South Florida with overpopulation of pets. Okay. I do know for a fact Miami-Dade Animal Services, like the shelter, is basically at above full capacity, and even probably the same here at some of the shelters in Broward and even up in Palm Beach. And they desperately need people to foster, and they desperately need people to help you out. So Esme, listen, when you got like a weekend off or a day off, or you just want to chill, definitely see about talking with a local rescue group to see if you can maybe volunteer or maybe look into fostering. Okay. It's definitely great options. If you want to spend time with a pet, but you don't think you can take care of it full time, there are plenty of options out there for you. Okay. All right. In case you missed it the first time, here's another opportunity to find out where to send in your videos or your
Send in your questions to questions@allhealthtv.com or AllHealthGo on Facebook or YouTube, or visit the Ask the Doc page on our website, allhealthtv.com.
All right, so hopefully you guys saw that video. That's where you need to send your questions into, okay? All right, next question comes from Anastasia, who just visited us on Insta. Good day, Dr. Joy. I've been getting my food from a fancy smancy pet boutique, but it's outrageously expensive. My best friend says I'm spending way too much, but my fur baby means the world to me and deserves the best. Can I get really good quality dog food from a pet or grocery store? All right, Anastasia, fancy smancy, huh? All right, this is what I think. So yes, you can, okay? Lot of the three major food brands as far as what a lot of veterinarians tend to promote that have prescription food is going to be like Purina, Royal Canin, Heels, and there's so many other brands of dog food out there. Okay, so this is not just it, and a lot of those foods you can get them from a regular just pet store. Pet store. It doesn't have to be like a fancy boutique. Okay, even some of the grocery stores, they carry that type of food also. The big thing that I like to tell owners is that the grain-free diets that a lot of, I feel like, fancy boutiques or online or, influencers or TikTokers or whatever are kind of promoting like the grain-free stuff, that's not really good for your pet. Okay. It is very, very rare that pets have an actual allergy to grain. And actually, we've been having some pets, and I think I've talked about this in another episode, that are starting to develop heart disease. Okay. You just want to make sure that is a good quality dog or cat food. Okay. Nothing against some of these other lower cost brands. There's nothing wrong with them per se. But you don't want to break the bank. And just because you go to a fancy boutique and they tell you, oh, there's no fillers, there's no artificial colors, there's no grain, there's no this and that, there's no byproducts, it does not mean that their food is more healthier than any other brand. My Pomeranian lived to be 18 years old, and she was on pretty much Royal Canin and Heal Science diet all her life. No fancy smancy food or anything like that. And thankfully, she was very healthy up until her old age. Listen, if you want to spend your money on that stuff, by all means, go ahead. But it doesn't mean it's going to be any better for your pet. The funniest thing I think is when I have owners come in and they tell me that they give their pet like filtered or bottled water. It's great if you want to do that, but it does not make a difference. Okay. I kind of like laugh a little bit inside, but it's fine. You can do that. So there's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of myths. I think honestly, the best information source is going to be your veterinarian. Okay. You can find out so much information on the internet that is not true. So as far as a good quality food, if you have a question about it, just talk with your veterinarian. Okay. There's so many different good quality foods out there, but you don't necessarily have to go to a fancy smancy boutique. All right. So I hate to burst your bubble, Anastasia, but it's fine if you want to feed your dog that food, but definitely if you want to maybe see if you can get a food that's a little bit less expensive, there are a lot of other good qualities out there. I would just talk with your veterinarian on what they recommend based on your pet's age and your pet's lifestyle also. All right. This question comes to us from Sebastian, who reached out through YouTube. Dr. Joy Carter, do you have any DIY pet toys or enrichment activity ideas that you can share, which can help save us money, but still keep our pets happy and engaged? Hey, Sebastian. All right. Yes, I do. Okay. So actually, I think I was on like Pinterest or something this morning and was looking at some DIY stuff, and I saw some stuff for actually pet toys. All right. There's tons of ideas out here, but here are a couple of them that I saw that I thought were really cool. All right. So a lot of them are just going to require like a t-shirt. All right. So definitely everybody's got old t-shirts, pants, sweatpants, whatever out there. One thing is you can basically take a plastic water bottle that is empty and you can kind of wrap it up in a t-shirt, that it's a great toy for dogs. I don't know if it's great for the owners per se because it tends to be very noisy, but dogs love chewing on plastic water bottles. And definitely one way to keep them from chewing it into small bits and swallowing the plastic is going to be to put some type of fabric thing over it. I've also seen people make kind of rope chew toys out of like strands of fabric. That's another thing that you can do. You can take an old tennis ball and you can kind of maybe put it in like a sock and then tying the end of the sock or kind of doing that with some type of fabric material. That's another good one. There's so many ideas out there. All right, guys, I'm not going to be able to name everything, but just go online. As far as cats, oh my God, you buy an expensive toy for your cat, and then next thing you know, your cat's playing with the box that it came in. That always happens. So I will tell you this much. Boxes are great for cats. You can certainly cut holes in the box. You can, get special like I guess cardboard tubes that they can kind of like run through. That's another really good idea. You could kind of make your own kind of like those kind of like feather toys that they have kind of on the string and you wave around. You could do that with kind of knickknack objects in your house. Cats love to play with that. So trust me, there are ways to make your own toys for your pets. And thankfully, with advancements in the internet and everything like that, you're able to look anything and everything up. All right. So hopefully these are some ideas that kind of helped you out a little bit at least. All right. All right. So we got another question from our website, allhealthtv.com. You should really go check it out when you get a chance because it's a choke full of great information. And this question comes to us from Julius. Hey, Dr. Joy, we got a new Cavalier King Charles Spaniel puppy for the kids. So our question to you is, what are some preventative care steps we can take to help save us money on pet care in the long term? All right, Julius, thank you for asking that. All right, here's a couple of here's a couple of kind of bullet points that talk about preventative pet care on a budget really quick. So the first thing I would say is going to be regular checkups, okay? Typically with pets, you want to have a checkup at least once a year, once they get older. Now, depending on if they have some type of medical condition, or if they're taking specific medications, that you may need to do it more frequently. And that's something that your veterinarian will talk about. Vaccines are very important, okay? There is a reason why we vaccinate pets, all right? It is to prevent a lot of deadly diseases, all right? So definitely getting your pet regularly vaccinated a lot of times can keep them more healthy because things like parvovirus, distemper, things like that, especially we see in dogs, panleukopenia in cats, like those are diseases that can be deadly. And so if your pet is not protected, then they certainly can acquire those diseases and then unfortunately, can require very intensive care. Definitely flea and tick prevention, guys. I know a lot of people like to be like, well, my dog stays inside and it never goes outside. I mean, maybe there are some dogs that stay inside 100%, but your dog usually goes outside, even if it's for a short time period to use the bathroom, or maybe you take it outside to, go to the grocery store with it. Okay. So they're not completely isolated. And then also, too, you can bring things in from the environment. You can bring ticks, you can bring fleas in on your clothing, on your shoes, things like that. All right. What happens is when I see pets with problems with fleas and ticks, that's when it costs money. Okay. And a lot of pets can sometimes have a very severe reaction to fleas. There are a lot of pretty nasty and sometimes can be deadly tick-borne diseases and some diseases that can come from fleas that can affect dogs and cats. So definitely having them on flea and tick prevention year round, and heartworm prevention, guys. That's another one. Get your pets on heartworm prevention. It is so expensive to treat your pet for heartworm. On average, at the place that I work, it is a low-cost hospital. It's anywhere from $1,000 to $1,600, and it can be double that at other hospitals. It only costs maybe heartworm prevention anywhere from $10 to $20 a month, okay, just for that. So it is a lot easier to prevent than it is to treat. All right. Another thing is good dental care. Okay. You don't know how many dogs I have come in, the little chihuahuas with the rotten teeth. And it gets to a point, unfortunately, when their teeth are so bad that they're having other health problems because of it. And we have no choice but to do a dental and then, extract a lot of teeth. And that can be expensive. Now, brushing their teeth regularly doesn't mean that they won't ever need a dental. Okay. But definitely you can help, so they don't have to have a dental cleaning as frequently, basically. And then the other thing would be, like I talked, with Anastasia's question, just good quality pet food. Okay. You want to feed your pet something that is good quality. Like I said, speak with your veterinarian about that. Definitely based on their age, their lifestyle. There's even certain foods for different breeds. If they need to be on a prescription food for, some type of medical problem or something like that. Okay. All right. So definitely the way to try and treat disease, or I guess you say the cheaper way, is to prevent it in the first place. All right. All right. So we got another question from our Facebook page, and this one is from Roxy. Yo, Dr. Carter. Yo, Roxy. Sorry. I've got a 6-year-old Yorkie, Trixie, who has a history of stomach issue and occasionally gets diarrhea sometimes. Do I need to go to the vet every time she gets the trots? It's more expensive for the dog to see the doctor than me. All right, Roxy. So hopefully none of my colleagues are going to get mad about this answer, but the answer is yes, and the answer is no. All right. So most of the time, if you know that your pet has a sensitive stomach, and say that your pet got into something they weren't supposed to, they otherwise are acting fine. They're eating, they're drinking, they're active, they're alert, they're not vomiting, and they're just having some diarrhea or some loose stool. I would say it is okay to maybe wait a little bit of time period to see if it doesn't go away. All right. Things you can do to try and help them out at your home would be definitely doing kind of a bland diet that can include like chicken, rice, cottage cheese. I've even seen people do like ground turkey, things like that, to try and see if that will help. Definitely, it becomes a concern when, say, the diarrhea is not starting to show some signs of improvement after about 2 or 3 days, or if there's any other clinical signs that are starting to appear, like I mentioned, not wanting to eat, vomiting. Okay. If you're starting to notice a decent amount of blood in the stool, if your pet is lethargic, at that point, I would definitely phone your veterinarian and see about bringing your pet in. Now, depending on your relationship with your vet, if you are definitely a very good client that comes very frequently, and your vet has a very good relationship with you, you may be able to call your vet and say, hey, listen, doc, my Yorkie's got some diarrhea again. All right. Can I get maybe like some Diagel or some probiotics or something like that? Or, and they may feel comfortable prescribing it. Now, not every veterinarian will do that. Okay. So I don't want you guys to get mad if your vet requires you to have a visit, or, and that is just their personal preference. Okay. But definitely, you don't necessarily have to go to the vet every time they are having diarrhea. Okay. If you know that it's a chronic history and you know that your pet ate something weird and you're just like, oh, it'll go away in a couple of days, then that's fine. And that's with most diarrhea that we see in emergency medicine, that we see in general practice, urgent care, most pets are otherwise fine. And if they hadn't come to us, it was probably going to get better in a couple of days. But certainly you need to take your pet in if it's not getting any better in a few more days. All right. So definitely, Roxy, vet care isn't cheap. So that is a legitimate question. Okay. I don't think I'm going to have any time for any more questions, guys, but I know that this is kind of a little bit of a hot topic nowadays because everybody seems to be on a little bit of a budget. All right. The best thing you can do is communicate with your veterinarian if you're on a budget but you want to be able to take the best care of your pet. Okay. Trust me, us vets, all we want to see happy and healthy pets. I don't want any sick pets to come in. If I could just see puppies and kittens and cute dogs that are just happy and wagging their tail and want to meet me, I would love that, or to just do spays and neuters. But unfortunately, we're there not only to keep your pet healthy, but to treat them when they do become sick. But if you have any financial concerns, all right, speak with your veterinarian about that. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoy this episode, and I will see you guys next week. Okay, bye.
Send in your questions to questions@allhealthtv.com or AllHealthGo on Facebook or YouTube, or visit the Ask the Doc page on our website, allhealthtv.com.
Funding for this program was brought to you by Michael J. Zinner, MD,